both of you, the fourth quarter is always the crunch time. It's always the money quarter. Just what did you do to play within yourselves and find a way to secure a result today?
We had to get stops on defense, and once we were getting stops, it was turning into our offense, and that's what got us going. And we were able to hit shots, get stops, and that's what won us the game.
PJ, what did it mean for you to just be back out there today and just be able to make such an amazing contribution for your team?
It felt really, that my teammates have faith in me and that I can deliver, and so I just didn't want to let them go, let them down. So yeah, I just played like I had nothing to lose.
Meg, for you, obviously, the family connection, it's been asked a million times, but to have it in front of you today when you set two career highs, just what are the emotions that run through your head as you go through that?
I mean, it was definitely really high. Looking up and seeing both of my brothers there for the first time. Well, not for the first time, but TJ for the first time. So I'm happy he was able to come to a game during his All-Star break, and my family's always there to support me. So I think the blood was rushing for me, and this game felt good to me.
Precious, we'll start with just to play inside. You guys as a team had 40 points inside the paint, but aside from the scoring, a lot of screens getting set, a lot of physical play inside, and to the point where your coaches were kind of lobbying for you because there's some picks being set in a game like that where it's so physical and there's so much going around. How do you try to balance the aspect of maybe not trying to push the envelope too much, but still being aggressive?
I think just playing freely, like not forcing anything, but just being confident and knowing like. So I just put myself up to the challenge. That's what allowed me to be successful.
Coach Burks talked about this maybe a couple games ago, just how many times during the course of the game you're setting screens and really giving the body up. That three-pointer by Nay at that point off the pass by Maya, you set the screen and set all that in motion. And Dance talked about doing all the small things. When you're able to have a game like this where the small things add up, especially in critical moments, what does that do for your confidence knowing that your teammates can deliver when you do the small things right?
It does a lot. It makes me want to work harder because I know my teammates are those shots, so I want to set them up for the best possible.
Meg, you talked about all the adrenaline flowing, the situation with your family being here. You played all 40 minutes in this game. And this wasn't a game where it was just like you coasted where you threw. There was a lot of back and forth, a lot of momentum swings. But at the same time, each of you all got opportunities with only 7 players. Everybody got opportunities to contribute. In a game like that, of course, you had your own opportunities to score, but everybody's chipping in. What's it like knowing that everybody's trying to put a hand in the pile and get a game like this that's so hardly contested to pull it out?
I mean, when you have what 3 or 4 girls scoring double digits, you're not going to lose many games. So I think just everybody contributing and seeing the ball go in the hoop gives us a lot of confidence, and it just lets us know like the ball's going like the game's going our way. Let's just keep shooting. And so it felt really good to see everybody get the ball in the basket, especially Lauren. She got the it done a little bit. So I think it just gives a lot of people confidence and makes us feel more connected as a team throughout the game.
You mentioned Lauren. There was a point where I think it was like a 12-point lead, and Amaya was shooting a couple free throws where Lauren kind of cracked a smile. And that was the first smile that your entire side had shown throughout the game. You can tell everybody was mentally locked in, and no one was really coming up for air until this one was over. What was it like in the huddle with you guys interacting with each other? How was the mental, how were the vibes going with everybody trying to work through this one?
Well, this game was so back and forth. I mean, since the second half, we started off hot, and then they caught up, and then it kept going back and forth. So we knew we just had to stay grounded. The game was never over. So we were just telling each other we have to lock down on defense. We can't let guys and kicks because that's what they're good at. So we stayed in front. We boxed out. We got the rebound, and we let it fly on offense.
And this is for either of you guys. In a game like this where there's a lot of evenly matched here between the two teams as far as just looking at the profiles. But this felt like one of those games where the competitor in you comes out, where you really want to get this one out, even if, you're kind of giving your best effort and it doesn't work. But this felt like one of those games where the competitor comes out, where you really want this game. How did it feel with either of you, knowing that you had to buckle down because neither team was going to give a lot of ground?
No, it felt good. Talked about one of the
one more home game before you get ready to finish out the season and get ready for the A10 championships. What does a win like this do, knowing how tightly contested it was and how much you had to battle to get it? How much does that help for your confidence, knowing you got one more home game and you got to get ready to go get ready for the conference tournament?
Well, we knew Richmond was coming in really confident, coming off three straight wins against very good teams, and so we knew they had to come to us on the road. So I think we defended our home court. We played well in front of our fans, and um, we know they're a good team, and they were seated. I think they were one ahead of
One
us,
ahead of you.
so we knew we needed that win.
In the second quarter, you guys were consistently feeding PJ, and whether it was a basket or drawing a foul, it really led to what Coach Dan says about the post touch. How much was that sequence maybe even more opening up the offense where it created those more looks and open looks for everybody?
Well, PJ is just such a dangerous weapon that we have on the block because, I mean, if you play her one on one, she's gonna score on you. So you have to either double her, and if you do, we have shooters on the floor. But PJ just has so many moves to her game, and I think when we run 41 or if we do one, which is like the high ball screen, it sets PJ up to be in the best position to score.
It's not just one more home game. You guys set a record last game with threes. You have a chance to set another record on Wednesday with home wins. Just what would it mean to have another history book for yourselves, regardless of how the season goes the rest of the way?
Especially going into the A10 tournament. I just have to be smart.
Good. All right. Thank you.
Thank you.
Cam, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Today was a really good day. Actually, I'm quoting someone when I say that. Today was a really good day. We played a team that I have a lot of respect for, and a head coach that I have a lot of respect for. And I think Richmond's a very good basketball team that plays their own unique style. And I can't be any happier for the success that we've had. Our players played a very good basketball game on both ends of the floor. And their knowledge of the scout and how we wanted to play and how we wanted to execute, this might have been our most complete game this year. It goes without saying that when you score 40 points in the paint and you get 27 from your bench and you have 23 assists for 33 baskets, you're going to have a lot of success. And we had that today. And we had a lot of very good individual performances. And we really need to highlight the fact that Meg McConnell had 18 rebounds that put her over the 500 rebound mark for her career, which is crazy numbers. And she finished with a career high 23 points, and also she threw in 8 assists while she was at it. I mean, just an incredible day for Meg. And Amaya Hamilton wasn't far behind with 15 points, 7 rebounds, and 8 assists herself. A real good day.
Is that the sneakiest triple double for Amaya there? I mean, it almost didn't even seem like it was there. And honestly, the biggest compliment might even be that she was stronger as the game went on, too.
I would agree with that 100%. Amaya was stronger as the game went on. She figured out where her shots were coming from. She figured out that with a good, strong foot fake jab going right, she had the left lane always open and available to her. She fell short of the triple double by a couple rebounds and by 2 assists. But let's also remember she also had a couple blocks and she also had 3 steals. That might have been the most complete game that Amaya has played in a Duquesne uniform. Outstanding today.
You've mentioned consistently, you tell the players about reaching the post, finding a post touch. How important was that, especially in that second quarter, getting PJ going, whether it was a basket, drawing fouls, opening up other bodies as well?
I was really disappointed in how we, not just Yanni, but also Precious, how we posted in the first quarter was not what we wanted. We want to sweep the floor with our hands so that it creates us being low with our butt down and our shoulders not over our knees. That way we're anchored into the post. And we didn't do that in the first quarter. Instead, we were being pushed off the block, pushed off our mark too easily. We challenged them in the second quarter, and they became better and better at it. Precious, obviously, with 8 for 11 from the field with 17 points, was simply outstanding with her post-ups today and being really strong and being really, really physical. And, we played her a lot more minutes for that reason. But Yanni, even when Yanni was in, she was still 2 for 3 from the field. And I feel like if Precious wouldn't have had the day that she had, Yanni would have had that day.
When they call the timeout in the third quarter, you go on that 8-0 run. Just what was it that maybe allowed them to find those open corner looks? Was that something you just challenged them and it just happened to go in? What did you see on their end that allowed them to maybe break out a little bit?
Well, blame the head coach for Duquesne for not calling a timeout in the third quarter and allowing Richmond to score 32 points, because it started out 8-0. And I did a poor job of not calling timeout to stem that tide. And so blame me for that. But the initial run of 8-0 that we came out of the halftime with was us just being in transition, getting a defensive stop. And when we go in transition and the ball hums, in other words, it's passed twice, advance the ball as quickly as you can, pass, and then you're going to get a wide open shot. And that's what we did with that. And then Aaron from Richmond, the head coach, made a really strategic, smart timeout, and they came out and they were able to get paint to kick threes. And you can't. Richmond's going to make a lot of threes, and you have to be able to withstand them making threes. Today they made 12, and that's 36 points. We knew they were going to make threes, but the key was we couldn't let them score a lot of twos, and we were able to do that today.
You mentioned getting some stops and getting in transition during that 8-0 run to start the second half. And I think we mentioned this a couple of times during the course of the game, just the value of getting the most out of possessions. It felt like in the second half, Your group did a lot better as far as getting the most out of possessions, not rushing shots, working the ball around well, just being patient. Could you speak to just how well they were able to execute in the second half and getting more out of assists to set up buckets that way?
Very good point. I want to say that, obviously it's the players that have to execute all of those actions. But Vanessa Abel, our offensive coordinator, did a masterful job of running sets that created advantage for us. Her eye for detail and for the mismatch is outstanding. And today might have been her best job as a coordinator. I thought she was just fantastic. With that being said, then the players have to go out and execute that, and they did that. They listened exceptionally well. That's the one thing about our team. Our kids, if we say go hit your head on the wall 10 times, they'll go do it 10 times. And what we've challenged them to do a little bit more of, instead of just being robots, is to understand that basketball is a little bit like jazz. That you have to be able to improvise, and you have to be able to create for yourself a little bit. And so that improvising happened a little bit tonight, but it happened under control, and it happened within the context and the flow of the offense. And again, this is a very good win today, and that's one of the reasons why. Because we had flow, we improvised a little bit. We also stuck to what we knew would be successful.
You talked about Precious in the post game earlier. I remember a few weeks back you talked about the work Precious does away from the ball, the screens that she sets, the way she's able to face up defensively. It seemed like there were so many plays she made in this game that didn't involve the ball. They didn't involve scoring and rebounding, where she's setting screens, and one of those screens set up Amaya to find Nail for that three in the fourth quarter. What does that say about the work she continues to do, where she's just being physical and giving up her body like that for her teammates?
We challenged our posts to set better screens. And better screens are when you have physical contact with your chest directly in the middle of the defender's shoulder. And today, I think Precious had 3 or 4 bone crushing type screens. One was called for an offensive foul, an illegal screen. That's okay. I'll take an illegal screen call every game. I'll take 2 every game. Because if we get those 2 illegal screens called on us, we've probably gotten away with 6 or 7 other ones that were really good and really strong screens. And Precious did that. She had the one there late in the fourth quarter in the open floor where the kid just kind of melted. And, like I had to tell her, like, look, we don't want to have an illegal screen call there. We want us to be able to run the clock down. Just run beside the kid on that one. And that's a little bit of a lesson learned. But her screens have been outstanding. Yanni is the same way. Our post players have done a really good job of screening, especially in the last month.
You talked about some of the calls in that game. There were some moments where things didn't seem to be going your way, but at the same time, after I think it was a media timeout, your team came back out, and it was almost like nothing happened. They just responded to it. Nothing seemed to bother them from that point. How important is it when you have a group that's been through some of these situations where things may not be going their way, but it's kind of a so what now what approach, and they still manage to work their way through that?
Sometimes you're just trying to work for a call. And so when we would run pick and roll action and our posts would roll, they always had a weak side defender there to disrupt our path to the basket. The one McConnell turnover where Yanni was going to roll to the basket, literally Yanni is disrupted in her path, and it was just a turnover when no one touched the ball. And the referees knew that I knew it, and I made them very aware of it. And so, we told our guys, when you roll, you have to roll really hard. If they want to put someone in there to body block you, they can't disrupt your path. So run them over and it becomes a foul. But if you don't do that, it's advantage Richmond because they're not going to call it. They're not going to call it. You got to run the kid over. And that's what we started to do, and we did a much better job of it. I thought the officiating was really, really good, but I'm going to work them for every call that we can possibly get in the game. And I thought they officiated a good game. And sure, there's a couple calls where you don't agree, but overall, I thought they were really good.
I heard you mention previously how you feel like you had 6 starters when you bring Yanni into the equation. Lauren Wasselson gets another start today. She gives 11 points in, I believe, 24 minutes and had a couple rebounds too. What kind of effort have you seen from her? Because it seems like her minutes have continued to increase throughout the course of the season. She gets the start today. You only rotate with 7 players, and Yanni and Lauren being the additional 2 outside the 5 that you normally talk about. But to the effort that she continues to give, and I talked about this earlier also, she continues to have that intensity. Toward the end of the game, she cracked one of the few smiles I see her crack on the floor. But what does that say to how she continues to work and help this team continue to win games?
Lauren has had a long road back from a knee injury. It was complicated with some back issues, and so she's really not been healthy until about a month ago. And then the ball wasn't going in the basket for her, and that's really important for her in her psyche, so that she feels like she's helping the team. And what we had to do is redirect that type of energy with her to have her understand that if you defend and rebound, the shots will come at some point. I'm not worried about that. But you have to defend and rebound for you to gain that confidence back. And if you're going to play, I'm going to put you on the floor when you're shooting it poorly, you have to defend and rebound. And she's done that. She's not perfect. Like today, she went over on a screen where she should have gone under. But no one plays a perfect game. But she's so dialed into what the scout is and what we're asking her to do. She works incredibly hard behind the scenes to be the best team player that you can be. Um, we started her because we wanted to have a little bit of pop off the bench, and Nay has really given us that pop off the bench with 4 for 5 today from the field, 2 for 3 from the 3-point line with 10 points. I thought Nay today played one of her better basketball games. She didn't score all the points, but she played under control and she made really good decisions with the ball and finished at the rim too. And so, we play 7. Um, there's not a whole lot of other teams out there that are successful that play more than 8. And you look at most teams; they're playing 7, 8 guys, and that's it. Especially at this time of the year, I'd like to go a little bit deeper, but for that to happen, I've got to get a little bit more confidence in sub, and I'm hoping that we can do that because when you get to the tournament, your guys who are 8, 9, and 10 have to fill quality minutes, and they have to fill important minutes, and so it's our job to continue to work with them as we have all year to be ready to go for when the time comes and their number is called.
You had a Richmond team coming in, a lot of confidence, 3 straight. They won them all by double digits, and it seemed like every time they turned around, you'd get a lead, they'd come roaring back, they'd get a lead, you'd have to respond. To get a win like this, the way it had to come, because this was a really great matchup on paper, and they always talk about how styles make fights, but to win a game like this and the way you won it, when you're right up against the conference tournament coming up here in a couple of weeks, what does that do for your team's confidence, knowing that hey, we faced a battle like this and we came out on the other side?
When you have that type of back and forth, and you don't necessarily shoot the ball well for stretches, relying on your defense, relying on one player to make a play, relying on your coaches with knowing what the scout is, and if you execute it correctly, it's going to give you a really good chance to win. Those are all really important things. Um, Today is our 13th home win, and that ties the school record. And on Wednesday we're going to get a shot at trying to break a record. And I've enjoyed this group tremendously, tremendously. And I know I say that a lot of times, but uh, if you watch this game, you'll see me smiling probably more than you'll ever see me smile at any time in my career. The joy that Meg McConnell and the others bring, it's so much fun to coach this group. And to be at 13 wins, we want to get that 14th on Wednesday. We're going to do everything we can. And we do feel really good about where we are right now because our health has also returned a little bit, where our bodies are recovering a little bit better. And this week with midterms coming up and being at home against Loyola and having to go to Joe's, we have to manage those things correctly, and then we go to the conference tournament. But we're literally taking everything one day at a time, and we've got to be dialed in and focused for Loyola starting on Monday morning. Thank you for supporting women's basketball. Great crowd today. Hope to see you on Wednesday.